QS59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody. Well, welcome me and somebody else is out there. And we're having another two-way workshop. This is a effort to continue to have a consistent platform, consistent place for people to gather and collaborate. And if there's someone out there efforting towards a two-way project of some sort to get some information, get them on their way faster, so that together we can accomplish more. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. So I don't try to say stuff on it. I'm not here to give you a speech. I'm here to provide a platform. Thanks to our Patreon people who make it possible. And thanks to some of the people who do podcasts to let me simulcast their podcast. And since no one's joining me today, we'll just dig into a podcast, I guess. We send a link out to a bunch of different people in the firearms industry / two-way media, or basically that are involved in both. And we hope that they'll use this as a way to get together so that we're not strangers when we get to the Gun Rights Policy Conference or the two-way summit that happens for the last 2 years in front of the Gun Rights Policy Conference. Coach Tactical just jumped in from Arkansas. Thanks for joining.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me.
So just kind of starts off like this usually. I send out the email before the show, and I try to do it consistently on Tuesdays and Saturdays, but I have a life like everybody else, so I try to do it around this time of day, but it might be a little earlier or later than, like I say, try to do it in the afternoon on Saturdays. So you do a lot of projects. What's been happening on your end of the world?
Not a whole lot this week, but just preparing for SHOT Show. I've been talking to a bunch of industry people, other content creators, about hopefully meeting up and talking and all of that. And then really the projects are this year. I've got a few of them on the board, but really it's just trying to network for the next couple of weeks to make sure everything's ready to go for SHOT. Did I lose you? Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm muted. I'm sitting here blabbing away. Okay.
Oh, I was like, uh-oh. I know you had issues the other night on the show, so I didn't know if it was happening again.
I think they've been okay. As far as technical-wise, yeah. The SHOT, the 2019 is a big year, but SHOT is the next thing on our plates, and at least for most of us. So tomorrow's Sunday. 2 full weeks from Sunday is the beginning of SHOT Show, really. So that'll be the 20th. Things will start happening. 21st will be the media day that's affiliated with the SHOT Show. There'll be some other range events on Monday and throughout the week. It looks like there's a seminar on Monday, which I think is lame that they have to double things up on a week-long event. But
yeah, they're making you choose almost.
Yeah, there's a couple of things you got to choose. Not too often, but I guess they can't do everything more than once. But anyway, so there's the media day on Monday, and like I say, some other things that people will jump into, and then the events throughout the week. Then we've got, I like to attend this big antique gun show at the end of the week, but most of the SHOT activities will end on Friday or even Thursday night, really. So Tony just jumped in from New Jersey. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
So we're just talking to Ghost, and since this is your second year, you've had some experience and you've done multiple events and stuff in the industry since then, since your first visit. Are you? Let me ask you a couple questions. Are you scheduling like per slot? In other words, like a 9 o'clock here, maybe time to walk to a 10 o'clock there, and then time to walk to a 12 o'clock here, and then a 3 o'clock, and then that's it for the day. The next appointment starts Monday, and then, as people are willing, or, when it's available to them, but basically you're trying to fill up, starting Monday, starting to fill up through Thursday and Friday, or are you just, or let me ask, are you doing it that way? Are you trying to look at the schedule and see the windows you have in it and fill each window?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, some of the time slots that I've filled for meetings are based upon when they can meet. But if they give me the option that I'm trying to schedule, like I'm not trying to schedule anything before 10 o'clock for various reasons, whatever happens, but I want to be able to get there, kind of see
That's
what's
smart.
going on.
Yeah, leave a
So
window.
10 o'clock, like 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, every couple hours, that gives me time to make sure my meetings go well. Plus I can walk around, do other things. And then, so between there, as the kind of the ball is moving while I'm there, I've got those set up for Tuesday through all the way through Thursday, pretty much every 2 hours. And obviously as the week progresses, we meet different people, we'll have time and other meetings and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to be as structured as possible, but I'm also allowing time to kind of move as the current flows.
Yeah, that sounds like a tight strategy. I like that. I was going to suggest that when I tried it once doing the windows, being reasonable about how long to take between, it started to fill up. And then what happened is the first time somebody couldn't meet one of those, agreed upon times, then it starts turning into a crazy Tetris match and everything starts moving. Or maybe it's
Yeah, that was for me last year. I tried maybe too much the first, like Tuesday and Wednesday. I almost had stuff like every hour and a half. And it didn't necessarily work out well because, like you said, things happen and times had to change and all that. But I'm trying to be a little more fluid this time.
And you figure 3 or 4 a day scheduled like that, and that gives you 12 or more for the days, and then all the targets opportunity in between ends up being a useful shot.
Yeah, and what happened last year also, as you remember, on range day, I mean, we met some people on range day that we had to slide them into the schedule, and then we're going to Antera shoot on Sunday, so there'll be other opportunities during that to schedule some people. So, like I said, I'm trying to keep some times open for those things as they happen.
Are you doing anything else with Antares besides the shoot on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, they invited me to some different things and all that. I'll probably, my nights are already starting to kind of fill up. I've got some meetings and social gatherings at night with some different companies and stuff. So, but yeah, in Terrace, I'm gonna. They've invited me to a thing on Tuesday. So, it's been one of those things where it's also, I mean, there's just so much stuff going on outside of the exhibits that I wanted to try to catch more of. Maybe maybe the speech here and there. I know Maj is speaking. I'm gonna go see his speech. There's so many different things that are just not exhibiting and doing video and stuff that I want to kind of engulf all of SHOT Show this time. So I'm trying to budget my time as much as possible.
So what are you physically using? Not paper, open.
What's that now?
Phone, like Google email, or what are you using to actually do your schedule?
I actually just have a spreadsheet on Excel. I love Excel. I'm using Excel forever. So I'm just kind of one of those people that like to do Excel spreadsheets, and then I just download it to my phone and stuff like that, so I can kind of do it that way. I've used Google Docs, so I can keep that on my phone everywhere I go. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to get everything on an Excel spreadsheet, and then right before I'm probably going to put that in my calendars on my phone, and then put it on a Google Doc. And then also the good thing about the SHOT Show app is you can do stuff like that on the app as well. So it'll hopefully all of it will maybe keep it somewhat organized, I guess.
I know the app's an option, but then it's a whole nother thing. And by the time you're talking like a manageable, almost unmanageable amount of stuff, now it's like you say you have it from your one thing, maybe it'll import into the next thing, and even if you do, is it useful to take all that time? So that's why I always kind of defaulted to not using their app. But let me ask you more.
Well, I think for me, the app is more for me is I've favorited the companies that I need to go see or I want to go see. And then I add a note to it to the point of contact that I have with that company. So when I walk up, I could say, hey, is Chris here or is Steve there or whoever, to kind of keep my mind fresh. That's kind of what I'm using the app for, is to kind of make sure that my list of companies are there and then their point of contacts with them.
It's also a map right now. Is it like GPS where, like, if you're on one part of the show, it'll walk you to the other to where you're going?
It is GPS enabled. I'm assuming that you could. I haven't utilized that. Maybe Clover has or Tony has, but I haven't utilized that. I want to try that out this year and see if it works or not.
Okay, I'm going to go grab something, but let me leave you with something to talk about or think about with the Google Calendar part. I've used Google Calendar public and private, and my concern, my hesitation, the reason I don't use it anymore for anything but public, is that I can never be 100% aware of which stuff is public or private. So just FYI, sometimes Google loves to shove your calendars up onto things. So just an FYI there. I don't know how much you use the Google calendars.
I never use a Google Calendar. I'll use my calendar on my phone. Just on the calendar on my phone to set appointments and stuff. So I've never used Google Calendar, so that might be something. I never play with it, so I probably won't start now for shot because I won't be too used to it. But the calendar app on my phone, at least I can set appointments in that and all that stuff. But that's kind of, Clover. I don't know if you've used Google Calendar, or Tony, have you?
I haven't used it at all. I use the calendar on my phone, but it's funny because this is kind of inside baseball stuff, talking about how do you go about setting up meets, because that, NRA is coming up and I have to do the exact same thing. I have to go from point to point, and it really, man, time gets away from you. And you have 4 days maybe at NRA to meet everybody you want to meet, go to everything you have to, and try to network. I mean, and it's usually a huge venue, a lot of walking, and nothing you want to go to is next to each other.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing with NRA with me. I enjoy maybe somewhat the aspect of more laid back NRA, but it's still massive. But you're still talking SHOT Show condensed into basically 2 days.
But NRA, where I was, NRA is not a big deal for me. It doesn't seem like, and maybe it's because I started more so on SHOT Show, and because NRA is smaller, you walk in and you're like, oh, this is gravy,
Yeah.
So
the only issue is the time, though. The only issue is with NRA is it's condensed to 2 days. So, you've got half the time that you do at SHOT Show. Maybe that's the only time that I see that.
2.5 days or a little more, actually.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and then most of Sunday.
Yeah, I get there I'm there. I get there a couple of days early. I make sure I hit the place Thursday, because the only thing open on Thursday is their air gun range, but you never know who will be there. So I show up. I mean, my whole thing is,
I never thought about that.
Yeah. You never know who you'll meet. You never know who you run into. I think the NRA store and the air range are the only things open. Ran into Hickok, talked to him about what we do, talked to his son, and that was in Atlanta. So it's just make that move, man. I try to take every advantage because I don't make it to SHOT, and I knew I wasn't going to make it to the Gun Rights Policy Coalition. So my entire thing is to make use of both NRA and the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, which is 9 long days.
So we heard about this from several people, and we've had discussions about that show. Like, for someone like myself who's never been there, how prevalent is the community? And I say the gun communities. I know it's just a small part of the outdoors show, but how prevalent is the gun side of the industry involved there?
It's starting to slide off from the very first time I went a few years ago to now, less and less. I mean, when I first got there, it was like SIG, Smith & Wesson, Colt, Beretta. They just had all of those there. Beretta, I don't remember Beretta being there this time. SIG was smaller. Colt was much smaller. So I don't know if they're not going, because I know they're dead tired after SHOT, because it's almost immediately after SHOT Show. And it's 9 straight days. So it seemed to be getting smaller, or at least they are downsizing. Hopefully this year they ramp it back up. I have no idea if they will or not. But I go there to network. I go there to get my name out and find out who I need to speak to, to spread the word and get the help we need to do what we do, plus also the podcast and everything else, because I'm starting to invite more and more people onto our show. 2019 is going to be a little different. The only person I had on last year was Kevin Dixie from the industry. But I really want to get somebody on at least once or twice a month. I don't need someone every show, but I want to introduce more and more people to different aspects of the firearms industry.
So, Tony, when you go to the Great Outdoor Show, what are you using as far as tech wise to keep track of things? And
okay, I've gotten better. Last year was better than the year before. The first year, I just went around and spoke to everyone. Um, Last year, I went around and actually had people I definitely wanted to see. So I think I used their app, which was horrible. All it was pretty much might as well be a fold-out map, except it was on your phone. So I didn't even know where the green room was. That's how bad it was. So this year I'm going in with more of a plan. I want to go to the green room as media, and I want to break it down. I want to also see some what do you call those seminars. So I'm going into this year with more of a plan than last year, and the only thing I use is what do you call that, docs? Just Google
How
Docs.
prevalent is media at the outdoor show? Is there a lot of media there covering it?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. The guys from God and Gun were there a couple of years. Those are the only people I know. I don't listen to every firearms related podcast, but I didn't really see or hear about a bunch of people going there, which I think is a mistake because it's SHOT Show. SHOT Show, everybody's in a hurry. If you're East Coast and you're within 4 hours drive time of there and you run something in the firearms media, dude, it's a 9-day show. You can catch people during the middle of the week and actually have conversations and talk about new product. That's what I found.
Heck yeah, and they're there, like you say, they're there for 9 days. They appreciate somebody showing up on a Wednesday when nobody else is there to actually talk to them about something. I can see that being super useful.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've, you know how okay, we all know you talk to somebody, you see them at a show, you see them at another show, and by the fourth time you see these people and you recognize each other, you have kind of a working relationship, and that's how those things happen. A condensed show, yeah, 2-3 days. Not everybody has time to talk. 9 days, yeah.
You got time to catch up at a big show, especially when there's a lot of stuff going on. It's tougher to get that initial relationship going, but that's where I guess the after hours stuff. I know with a 9-day show, I imagine that's opportunity for 9 days worth of stuff going on in the evenings too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like parties, but it's like, let's go here for dinner. All of us, yeah, all of us are hanging out at this place, and you get there, and there's like 10 vendors, and you get to talk to them. And I mean, I talk about what I do. I hand out the business cards, and we talk just firearms industry stuff, gun stuff, fun stuff, or then we don't talk about guns and we talk about silly stuff.
Well, this might be an ignorant question. Oh, I'm sorry, G, go ahead, sir.
No, go for it.
This might be an ignorant question, but it's something like the outdoor show where there's camping and trailers and hiking and all of and hunting and then firearms are a part of it. At night, do the firearm industry kind of people kind of stick together, like is their own little clique or something, because they are kind of a little small niche of this, or do they all kind of hang out with each other?
It's different, I think, as individual. Like the funny part is I ended up staying at the hotel where all of HK was. I like HK and Glock. So I actually hung out with those guys a little bit. And it was just, you went back to the hotel because you all were staying there, or you ate near the hotel. So whoever happens to be there is there. But yeah, I see a lot of gun industry people hang together because you got the shirts on to say what you're with. So you have the immediate opening. And they network too. I mean, people leave from one place and go to the next. So You never know who knows who.
So like HK and Glock, you guys might be at the bar or the restaurant in the hotel, and you guys all be at a table. HK and Glock are just kind of chilling together. That's kind of an interesting thing.
Oh, it was hilarious because I'm sitting there, having my breakfast. I forgot what one of the places, but the continental breakfast. I don't know what continent they're from, where oatmeal and bagels are the breakfast. But anyway, you're sitting there, and just people come and sit down, and it's the first thing in the morning, your first cup of coffee, and you're just talking to the people next to you. And maybe you notice the shirts at first, or maybe you don't. But then you look around, and like everybody has tactical pants with a knife clip to the pocket, and you realize everyone in that room is going to the show. Like all of us are there, and we're going in early. It's just funny to me. But sooner or later, again, 9 days, you start seeing each other, talking to each other, and it becomes a little community, maybe. I guess that's how you say it. You have a nodding recognition of each other.
Well, it's probably kind of like you're comfortable with each other. You can talk guns with these people and not necessarily have to worry about hiking or camping or whatever.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but like you're saying, you get that common experience or whatever. Like they know that you've done it. That right away means that they know you've efforted to get there, that you're doing something that gets you there, and that you understand what it's like. That it's either parking a long way away, or weird airport, or the weather. You've shared a lot of common stuff with that glance. And I know that from going, we were unique too. We went when SHOT Show was back and forth between Florida and Las Vegas. Not everybody could do both, and since the industry is at, the people in the booths are at both. They see you there. So yeah, take the opportunity.
And this year I want to see if I can, because my thing is to get sponsors, to get people to back, get things to raffle off and give away, both on the podcast and at events. And I'm going to see if I can stretch out and start talking to people that do other things besides firearms. Maybe I can find someone who would host a hunting trip. You know what I mean? Like give a spot away. Doesn't mean somebody will take it, but some people might win it. You know what I mean? And of course, I can talk about you on every show and, do that kind of thing, give you exposure. But some people never. They'll win something and never take up on it, but at least it gets you exposure. So I'm going to try to do that this year. I'm trying to grow beyond just talking to gun companies. I think I spoke about this before. I'm going to try to go to car shows and actually get exposure and talk about the Second Amendment there, and hopefully bring people in that either weren't interested or, being in New Jersey, are closeted gun owners and just didn't know something like the diversity should exist. That's what I'm trying to do. That's my mission in 2019, is to actually step outside of my comfort zone and talk to people in other industries or hobbies.
That was good. You talked about the Google Docs. So Word or the spreadsheet one, or different ones? When you were talking about Google Docs to organize, when you're getting ready for a show or trying to keep track of contacts or who you met.
Well, I don't even know which one it is.
Oh, is it the one that looks like a Word doc then? Because there's one that looks like, there's like basically the whole Office suite in there. So you can get spreadsheets, you can get Word docs, you can get PowerPoints, you can do other things.
Yeah, just the Word docs. That's the only thing I know. I haven't even broken it down more. It started out with, that's the way I got show notes, for the different podcasts I was on. And then I just started taking notes. I started writing my speeches on there, which was hilarious. I wrote the speech I said in Trenton on it, got up to say the speech and realized I didn't have my glasses, so I couldn't even read it off of Google Docs, which was funny, on my phone. I was like, great, I can't even see my phone. Well, let's wing it. But that's what I use for everything. I'm sure there's ways to get deeper into it, and I'm totally ignorant of it.
Well, that's one of the reasons we do the workshops, though, is so that we can all know our skills, our tools, get better skills on our tools. And I learned a lot from these two who are out there, doing their projects and learning from their resources. I learned from, different resources, I guess, when I'm trying to acquire skills. But when we all come together and talk about them, then we all get stronger, better. Clover, when we've been talking tech, like what you're using to keep track and that kind of thing. But I asked Ghost first, as far as scheduling, just to get some insight. Are you looking at the week like a calendar and filling in each slot, like each window, or what strategy are you using now, your second year?
I haven't. No, I haven't. Not on like a hourly maybe or daily basis or anything like that. Right now, I've got some general ideas of what I'm going to do, what days, but outside of that, I don't have it refined any further, at least not at this point.
So you're more like the style of taking a Rolodex with you, knowing the people you want to contact, and then kind of knocking them off as you see them and figuring out strategy as it shows up.
Well, kind of. I mean, I've got plans. Obviously, I want to hit up the supplier showcase. That's something I did not do last year, and I was a little disappointed after hearing you talk about it that I didn't go check that out. So I definitely need to earmark, and that's just the one day or whatever, right? Or no, it's 2 days, I guess. Well, no, it's just one day because it's Monday, but then we're at the range, so we only have Tuesday for that. So I want to get up there and at least spend a couple of hours, maybe just up there and kind of take all of that in just for the experience, and then potentially, contacts and other things. You never know. Then on Wednesday, you've got the, whatever the heck it is that's up there, the pop-up showcase or whatever they call it.
The new one.
I've actually got several in that I need to, I actually have to, go by and see. Well, I guess I have to, but you know what I mean.
Hold on, let me pause you there. So when you're talking about that new thing up there, is that stuff that you already knew the people and they told you they're going to be there, or are you looking somewhere to see a list who's up there?
Combination of both.
Okay, where do you look? Are you looking at the website, or is one of these things they sent us?
Both in the paper, but everybody that's there is not listed on the paper. So you kind of have to go to the website or the app for the more updated list, I guess.
Okay. All right. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So yeah, it's a combination. I mean, there's some people there that I've dealt with before, and then there's, or deal with currently. And then there's some that I have, reached out to, whatever, they made contact with me, that type of thing. So it's been kind of a more recent thing. And then there's some that, I would just like to go by and see. I'm not gonna, I'm not interested enough until I go by and kind of look at the product or whatever. I don't really want to make a hard commitment on anything, but I do want to kind of touch base and just, see what they've got going on. So I've got those two things definitely on the slate for Tuesday and Wednesday. Pretty much everybody that's on the plate right now, I don't necessarily have to have an appointment. And the way that I plan on walking the floor is very similar to the way that I did NRA, in that you have all the booth numbers. So, if you have everything lined out, you basically just work a zone. You go in, you work a zone. And then inevitably, while you work that zone, there's going to be other things that you walk by and you're like, oh, that's interesting, but I don't really have time right now or today or whatever. So then that's kind of the way it worked last year at SHOT Show, but I did not have the extra 2 days available. This year I'll have the extra 2 days. So and NRA wasn't that big, so I didn't have to worry about it. I could sneak in at NRA. I was able to sneak in the extra stuff. It wasn't really a big problem. SHOT Show is going to be a problem because it's just too massive. So with the added 2 days I've got, I will be able to then take those that I passed that were kind of interesting and go back and cover those maybe on Thursday or Friday. But I'm not looking at a bunch of stuff with big dog companies and things either. They swing by there just to swap cards with some media guys and attempt to make those contacts and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna spend all my SHOT Show time with big companies that may or may not value what I have to offer.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys say that. I don't know. I've heard you guys say that before, and I don't know who you're focusing that at. But if you're talking like a Colt or a Ruger or a Glock or a
HK or a FN or I
don't know. FN and HK are separate, maybe because they're European. But I can't say for certain because it's been years since I've efforted. But no, I'm talking all the big ones on the main floor, including Leatherman and Gerber and Spyderco. Don't write those off. The largest ones are the most efficient most of the time. Now, if you want them to, I don't know, take a bunch of time and something, then make an appointment with them. But I had contacts at like Benchmade, Leatherman, and Spyderco, who I'm still, friends with. I just haven't utilized the relationship to try to get videos. But I would sit down at a video with them, or at a table with them, and they would bring out their entire line. And if I didn't want to dilly-dally, and after a couple of years of doing it, we got almost business-like, and that's one of the reasons I stopped doing it. But it could take me 20, 30 minutes, and I'd have their entire line. That would give me 35 videos. They get really efficient. They know what they're doing. They'll hold the knife in front of you, and they'll give you the catalog description with a little bit of enthusiasm with it. They're professionals. So Glock and Colt and those, they have all their product lines sitting on a shelf within a couple of feet of each other. They know the deal now. SHOT is designed for video recording. So they'll have their entire product line instead of like the old days where all the pistols are over here and all the shotguns are over here. They'll have those segments of their displays for, you know, maybe talking to a gun shop or something about which models to buy or which models to have in stock. But they'll have a section where all the models are in one spot, and they'll have a person dedicated to just go through them. So, you know, you could go in and harvest the big guys in like a day. Now, there's some strategy to whether you want to do that the first day or the last day or somewhere in between. But those, consider them targets opportunity. If you got 45 minutes between here and there, and you're walking past Ruger, you could sit down and get the entire Ruger catalog videotaped really efficiently. And a lot of times that's just easy, just walking up and saying, hey, can you walk me through these real quick? And then turn your camera on and let it go. Do a little B-roll of the thing, and you get yourself saying, hey, I'm at the Ruger booth, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, they may not be like, hey, here's a catalog, you know, take your pick and walk away with it. But you can get your content.
Yeah, I noticed that. And then I was surprised. Again, this is, I had never went to SHOT, went to NRA. And even Great American Outdoor Show, when sometimes you stumble into the owner of the company and they take the time out to actually have conversations with you. Ronnie Barrett was the one that surprised me and actually took the time out to actually want to hear what I had to say and set me up in a back room with one of his people to actually have a conversation. I thought that was pretty cool. Same thing with the owner.
I went up to Barrett at NRA in 2010. And they're like, oh, you want to take video? Because this was kind of new for video or whatever. And they're like, you want to take video? Hold on. And I'm like, uh-oh, you know, another run around, or like they got to go check. A lot of back then it was like, we got to go make sure this is okay. And if the person wasn't around who somebody had satisfaction that could make that decision, it was no, you know. So, you know, I'm like, all right, it's going to have to go up the thing. And then I found out it was because they were waiting to have Chris come out and do the video, whatnot. So I'm like, oh, shit, thanks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think the funniest thing, I'd purchased a Hi-Point pistol. Just tired of the internet talk and the ignorance, so I decided to buy one and put my money where my mouth is. Put like 3,000 rounds through it. Wrote a review for it, Firearms Radio Network, and I was impressed that it wasn't the piece of garbage everyone said. But, you know, I had the things I wanted to point out that sucked. So we're at the Great American Outdoor Show, and we're walking up past the Hi-Point booth, and my partner, Sean, was like, hey, why don't you go tell them what you think of their pistol? Okay. So I walked over. I said, hey, how you doing? And I told him what I did, and I said, yeah, there's some cons to your pistol. When I started naming them out, like the magazine feed issues and whatnot, I said, overall, it's decent for what it is. And we talked, and anyway, he gave me a pair of $100 bill pistol grips, and I walked off and looked at some of their other stuff. And the second guy working the booth said, you know who you were talking to? And I'm like, I have no idea who I was talking to. It was the owner of Hi-Point. So, I mean, nice. I was like, nice. Holy crap. And it is what it is. Stand-up dude, working his booth in the middle of the week. And you know he owns multiple companies. That's not the only company he owns. But here it is, like on a Wednesday and a Thursday, he gave his people off, have them come in on the weekend, and he's working the booth in the middle of the week in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in a 9-day show. I was impressed by that.
Yeah, it's cool. And then he's also getting like feedback like that tracked, filtered.
Yeah, I mean, I said what I said, and if I would have known he was the president of the company, I wouldn't have changed anything. But I just, it was kind of funny. It's like, oh man, glad I didn't like trash it or say something stupid.
No, I interrupted Clover back then, and I was asking you though, tech-wise, what kind of app, spreadsheet, what do you, not paper and pencil, I hope?
Nah, I use a combination of we were talking about Google Calendars earlier. I've attempted to use that multiple times on multiple projects, and I don't like it. It's just kind of it's kind of clunky, and
you try to share it with two people, and then it's like available to everybody. It's like
yeah, I just don't. I don't know. Clunky comes to mind when I'm when I think about it. But yeah, I've tried that. So I've never have tried to use that in any of my dealings with the channel. I've too much experience with it previously. So I'll use the alarm scheduler calendar functions of my phone. Also use notes in my phone big time, and then the SHOT Show app, and then never discount that book that they send out, and paper and a paper map, and that type of thing. So now all of that will be pre-marked and then remarked again in the hotel room at night. I know last year at SHOT, Ghost and I'd get back, and that's one of the things we did. We'd sit down and kind of update, hey, I passed by this booth, or, I very quickly talk to these people, and I've got to go have a more in-depth conversation tomorrow, or, whatever. And so I would always, I would highlight, mark those in that book. And
I'd like to do that as a hangout.
And that little book or that magazine, or whatever you want to call it, is not that thick. So,
no, hold on.
I've got a little
catalog. You're talking the catalog, the one you pick up in the media room.
No. The one they sent us.
Okay, just the map with the.
Which is the little thin. Yeah, it's not very thick. It doesn't weigh a lot.
It's the same as a magazine.
Yeah, you can easily throw that. I've got a little laptop compartment, I think, or something. That's what it is in my backpack. And I mean, you can easily slide that in there, and then it's at your disposal if you need, a hard copy, and you're like, I didn't put that in the app, or I can't find that in the app. What's going on? Well, at least you've got that backup.
See, without
there's also. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to throw out there, without knowing the app intimately or whatever, because they change it all the time and they don't make it consistent, which is frustrating. So I think the spatially knowing it was on like the beginning of this booklet is way faster for me than trying to figure out where it might be in the app every year. So I know what you're saying with that book. Go ahead, Ghost.
Oh, I was saying, one of the cool things that Clover and I did last year in the hotel room at night is kind of an after action debriefing. And I'll sit there and say, man, I came across, especially when we go down to the dungeon, talking about, hey, man, I saw this really cool company, but it might be something that like I don't particularly look at for my channel. I'm not personally interested. I'd send a text to Clover like right then and say, hey, you need to come check out, this really cool 22, company or something, or whatever, something that I think that Clover or someone might be interested. I did it in NRA last year with the Gun Gals. Hey, there's a really cool booth over here that Jesse needs to come check out. And that's kind of those things is if you're working as a team, obviously we can't cover the entire show ourselves. But if we're on the lookout and saying, oh man, that's something that Clover would really dig. Hey, Clover, there's a booth down here in the dungeon, booth so-and-so and so-and-so, and here's what they do. I talked to them. I told them about you. They'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next couple of days. And that's always awesome also because we can cover more space that way.
So my dream would be we're doing this in a hangout. So because we're all going to be in different places, right? But if we can have a hangout going and be doing this, then everybody's aware
that'd be great.
Stuff is happening. And if we need to pile on coverage on somebody who deserves it, right? We can all know that. So, it'd be cool. It's unrealistic to all meet up every night. It's not necessary either, right? With the size of Vegas and everything and the things we have to do. But we could certainly have like a chat going, right?
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great idea.
I think when we did our little debrief thing at night, I think we went live every time we did it too.
Yeah,
so
we did. We kind of did it just for fun. And then it turned out being a business thing while our viewers are watching us.
Well, let's do it as a more, organized thing this year. Maybe everybody tag team it. Each person goes live with it. When Clover gets his live back, he can do it or something. So we got Logan jumping in. First time. Thanks for joining. We've been chatting about SHOT Show here and specifically like what kind of tech you might be using to try to keep track of appointments and booths you want to see. So I'll let you think about that. But I don't know if you want to give us a quick bio. I don't want to do disjustice to your.
Sure.
Yeah.
You guys there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Thanks for joining.
Okay. Well, hi guys. My name is Logan Medish, and I run High Caliber History. Been in the industry for a handful of years now, primarily in the museum aspect of things. I worked for the National Firearms Museum, the National Sporting Arms Museum, and the Smithsonian and the Park Service before that. And so I've done a lot of media coverage on things in the past. But to this point, it's all been for an actual employer, whereas this year I'm going out on my own to do things. So it's going to be a little different this time around. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions or anything, I'd be delighted to hear them.
Awesome. Yeah, this is what it's all about. So I'm glad you're able to bring all your wealth of knowledge to us. And I know you've got all kinds of stuff I'll pick your brain about in future shows. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so anytime we can be of assistance, Clover is from Texas and Ghost is from Arkansas. They'll both be at SHOT Show all week, and we've got a group of people that'll be there, and I'm efforting to get a bunch of us who are media together so that we're not strangers when we get to the show. We know each other, at least, you know, from talking like this, and then know what resources we have. So if, you know, somebody needs something, there's, you know, none of us should be able to, or should be in need. You know, we have plenty of people there. So awesome. So we're talking about, I'm sure you've been to SHOT Show before though, right?
Oh yeah, I've been a handful of times.
And in the Sands?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're talking, again, appointments and trying to remember booths, and as things come up, what kind of tech do you use, or how do you do it? How do you manage?
I've primarily used the app. I've found it to be a lot more useful than the paper map and everything, and it's just faster and easier that way. And you know, then you're not standing there trying to unfold a map and looking for things. And you know, I really like the fact that it's got the GPS capability, you know, and it'll pinpoint you and give you directions right to the booth, which is really great. Clover, I think it was you that was mentioning, you know, it's not bad to carry the paper one around. I definitely agree, but I really enjoy being able to have the app. Takes up, you know, a lot less space, and of course, you all know as well as I do, you know, things change, and you know, there's last minute booth changes, or someone drops out, or someone gets added in some of the smaller, you know, 10 by 10 booths that isn't going to be updated on that printed map. But you have that luxury with the app as opposed to the paper.
So we were talking earlier about the GPS, and G had asked me if I had used a GPS, and I had not before. So I'm glad you said that. So it does have the capabilities of kind of giving you directions from booth to booth. That's really good to know.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yes, and I had not before. So
Yeah, exactly. That's great to have somebody with experience, because I've been blowing it off thinking that it wasn't that good. So I'll give it another effort. Logan, do you have a YouTube channel also?
Yeah, I do. It's High Caliber History is what it's called. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to it, for sure. At this point in time, the majority of what I do is all writing based. I've got a number of different blogs that I send my content out to, as well as print magazines and stuff. So primarily what you'll see on my YouTube channel to this point is previous media that I've done with museum stuff. So there's a lot of NRA museums videos that I've done on things there. The goal is to be able to branch out and move forward. So
very cool. Yeah, we want to link up to it for sure. But I think once people watch a video or two, they'll recognize you from, like you say, you've done lots of stuff that they've seen before.
Yeah, I've had people come like, "Oh, you look familiar," and I'm like, "Well, everything you've heard's lies, 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 and more lies."
And for those that don't know, you also thank you very much. You helped with the editing the deck, made sure that the Inventors deck wasn't too crazy.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that project, and they turned out good. We were using them over the holidays, playing some card games, so definitely they turned out great. Appreciate you taking the lead on getting something like that out there, and reaching out to me to be able to offer some of the historic stuff to help kind of do some fact checking. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. That's what it's all about, getting history up into people's hands in a different way, and collaborative efforts and stuff. That's what it's all about. And hopefully we'll be able to pick your brain on some print and stuff. I know that people have thought about doing some publications and things like that. So awesome.
Yeah, I've definitely I've been fortunate enough to be able to do a number of different print things. I've got, I think, about a half a dozen print magazines that I'm working with, a couple bigger websites, a few smaller blogs, auction houses, stuff like that. And so I've got probably about 4 years worth of experience doing that stuff, and it's it's gone well enough that I was able to quit my day job and do this full time. So yeah, definitely happy to help in any way that I can.
Awesome. So we've been talking SHOT Show, and I know it's the next thing coming up. So if anybody's got any questions about SHOT, we do attempt to make this a workshop, so the people that are watching this are not hopefully sitting at home eating popcorn, but instead, being part of the conversation and hopefully getting motivated to do stuff with your own cameras. It's just cell phones most of the time. So, and you guys didn't hear if you got more SHOT Show questions, but one of the questions I've been wanting to ask Logan, I know, are you a member of the Professional Outdoor Media?
I am.
And I don't think any of us, well, I don't know, I haven't asked Tony if he is, but I don't think Ghost and Clover are, and I am not. Is it worth being a member?
Yeah, definitely, because they have, they call it POMA briefs, and they send out at least every other day, depending on what the content is. Sometimes it's every day. They'll send out a list of, it's called Moneyline, and it is job postings that are specific to our industry, and the ability to post a Moneyline listing and be able to see who's looking for those jobs. It's limited to the members. And so I would definitely recommend joining. They've got kind of stringent guidelines to be able to join as a full member. I had to submit a whole backlog list of where I'd been published and when, and the lengths of the articles and stuff like that, because there's a certain point bracket system that you have to meet in order to get the full membership. So it does take a little bit of doing, but it can be done. And I think it's definitely worthwhile. It's been beneficial to me, and I've only been a member there for a few months. So,
right on. Thanks for that insight. And I've been, like say, it's debating it, so I'm thinking more about it now.
Yeah, definitely.
So, SHOT Show. How many SHOT Shows have you been to? Let's go around the room. Clover.
1.
This will be 2 for you.
Yep.
Ghost, same thing.
This will be 2, yeah.
Logan?
I think this is number 4.
Right on. So you've gone to mostly at the Sands?
Yes, they've all been at Sands. Yep.
Okay. And then, Tony, you haven't been to one yet?
No, I haven't been to any. Turned down the opportunity years ago because I was an idiot. So, but yeah, no, I haven't been to any. Hopefully I can get to something in 2020.
When you say years ago, like before YouTube and it was like the coverage was a thing, back in the olden days when there was just magazines, anybody knew about SHOT Show, right?
What happened is a friend of mine I used to work out at the gym with, his dad is in the firearms industry and was always looking for people just to go to SHOT Show to help him help load up his booth, move stuff, and pretty much you just hang out all week with him and help load him up at the end of the show. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like fun, but I'm working. And I'm talking early 90s, mid 90s.
Yeah, see, it was just a trade show back then. It sounded like effort, right? And then, you're going to go somewhere that's fun, but you're not going to be able to do anything because you're working.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Vegas, or I guess in time they had it in Florida too, right? Back then. I'd go down there, help the guy unload, and then I'd be at a trade show, and being a gun guy, but I'm like, well, how much will I actually be able to walk around and have fun, or am I just working for someone for free to go hang out near guns but not be able to do it? And I just turned the opportunity down. And, everybody does something like that once or twice in their life. Have an opportunity and not exactly know what it is and blow it. But that's okay. Again, I really appreciate it now. And hopefully in 2020 I can make something of it and also contribute to what the other work I do, the entertainment part or the educational part with the podcast and the YouTube channel.
Right on. So then what about NRA shows? Same thing. Clover?
Well, NRA, just the one last year.
And then this year it's Indianapolis. Are you thinking about this one?
I should be able to, yeah.
And then Ghost?
I've been to one last year, and I'm definitely going to Indy this year.
Right on. How about Logan?
If I make it back to this one, this will be 6.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, obviously you've been going.
Yeah, I was going for the company. You know, it's kind of hard not to go to your own show.
And then Tony, how many?
I went to two, Atlanta and Louisville, and yeah, we've already got the plans for going to Indianapolis.
I don't. Yeah, I've only been to two. One was here in Phoenix, and that was when I first started kind of shifting gears from reviewing to reviewing the culture of the industry, right? Because it was so interesting to go to such a mind-blowing event, right? At the time, I didn't have any idea how big an event it was. And then we traveled to North Carolina to see it in 2010. But then since it travels around, I don't think I've been able to see it since then. So as far as comparing the two, as far as coverage, I know we've talked about this before, but not with the five of us in a room. So just to throw it out there, we don't have to go round robin or anything. But what do you guys think about the difference between them as people who are creating content or there to cover the show itself?
That's a great question. You know, it's a different environment from an attendee standpoint. You know, and I think you get a slightly different interaction with the booth staff at SHOT versus NRA or Great American, because, you know, SHOT is where they're introducing stuff, and well, most of the time, sometimes stuff gets introduced at NRA, but, you know, they're introducing everything, and they're really trying to sell the line, you know, to the dealer so that he'll place an order for, you know, hundreds or thousands of the item. Whereas NRA show, you know, the focus is more of on an individual level. So there's definitely that difference that I can see. That may or may not be kind of what you had in mind for an answer, but that's how I see it. Just there's a different interaction with the staff in the booth because the goal is a little different.
That's a great point. And it's tough sometimes for them to go from that, like, here's why my product is good for your store or why it's a good product for your distribution, and then now talk to you as if you're end user. Here's how it's so fun to use or why it's better than last year's model. And expecting them to flip-flop like that is tough, where at NRA they're just 100% in the mode of here's why my product is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had discussed it. Oh, go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
Oh, I've never gone to SHOT. One of the reasons when I first started this and was cold calling companies and talking to people, was talking about, you know, limited resources. I'm doing this out of pocket. And one of my industry contacts said the SHOT Show wouldn't be for me because it is more like introducing things, talking to suppliers, and they would not have time to talk to someone like me about diversity shoots, swag, sponsorship, that kind of thing. And I would be, time would be better spent at NRA or the Great American Outdoor Show. So that's why I never really prioritized SHOT, because I figured I wouldn't even be on that radar. Like, I would be annoying them more than, you know what I mean, helping myself.
What years was this?
2015, 2016.
Oh, that was bad advice in 16. Sorry you got that. But I was going to say that is true. And now let's look at SHOT Show from a distance. It's been going on since 76. It started out as a national level trade show for the shooting and hunting outdoor industry. So it was just another hunting show. They didn't even add law enforcement stuff, and it was sort of not really all that. They didn't welcome them with open arms, from what I understand. They didn't even invite police in until the 90s or into the 90s or something. And then it became more of what we see today with military and law enforcement being involved in it. So it has changed, and it's definitely changed over the years with as photography changed from regular photography into digital, and then from digital pictures into video, and from recording on, you know, whatever they used to record on to digital recording. And now everything is on telephones. You know, the audience, the people that are there, whatever you want to call the attendees, at one point, you know, we were the only cameras in the place, and it was odd to see a camera. Now every phone is a camera, so they have a totally different atmosphere as far as all that goes. So I just think that's interesting that you brought that up, that that would definitely have been app advice back in the 90s. Like, you know, don't show up at SHOT Show unless you're there to do business. But that's definitely changed over the last, I would say, at least 10 years. I mean, that I've been experiencing it, but I'm guessing, you know, even in the last 3 or 4. But I think that's another indication that it's important that we as media realize that this is an organic thing. It's the industry, and it's just the industry getting together in one building in one city for a week. And if we, you know, report on what it is like, and report on what it's like without nudging it and pushing it and forming it into something we'd rather see, then it'll never change to that. And I think that, you know, we don't have to have, anyway, I think that's possible for us to change it if we want it to be.
Well, and I think another point to that, with what Tony's trying to accomplish there, I think a couple of things. I think, first of all, it gives you, if nothing else, an opportunity to reach out, meet people, and network, because though you may not have time, you know, or whatever, to talk with that particular people, you can, at least about all the specifics, at least you can make that contact. Here's who I am. Here's what I do. Let's swap cards, because, you know, I want to, you know, have a deeper conversation in the future or whatever. And it also, you're there, you're visible, so they see that you're putting in the work for stuff as well. And I think both of those things could be a benefit.
Yeah, I think also you're talking about the difference between SHOT Show and NRA is, you know, for me, NRA was easier. It was, in my eyes, a little more laid back. But see, on the flip side of that is I enjoy SHOT Show because I enjoy the energy. I enjoy the craziness. There's something about being involved in the hectic side of things that I kind of just, I feel at ease. It sounds weird to say that. That's why I spend a lot of my time in the dungeon, because the energy of those companies down there that literally have everything on the line at SHOT Show, they're putting everything they have. They remortgage the house to get this product that they feel like they're innovative with, to get it out there and hopefully make their mark on the industry. I love that. And I spend, like I said, I spent most of my time last year in the dungeon, and I'll spend most of Wednesday at the pop-up review this year, being around these companies where the energy is truly, it's about the passion of their product. And I enjoy that about SHOT Show.
Yeah, Ghost, you're exactly right. And I was really excited to see the pop-up and the next and stuff like that. And you're right. They really do have it all on the line down there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think they say about 15 grand, 17 grand for one of those booths down there. I mean, that's a lot of money for a company that's hoping and praying that their product takes off, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's not cheap to get in, and there's a hell of a wait list to get in the first place, you know? So it's, yeah, they literally, it's their one shot, you know, because if it doesn't work the first time around, you know, they probably don't have the money to come back the next year.
And there's no guarantee, right? Like, they can make it or break it really easily.
Sure, exactly. You know, and while we're, if I may, while we're talking about, you know, the new booths and stuff like that, there was someone asked in the comments, unknown user, he asked if there was some stuff that any platforms or things that we were excited to see for the first time or get updates on. You know, and for me, yeah, all the stuff down in the dungeon and in the pop-up and in next, that's going to be great. But you know, I'm a historian by trade, and so I have really enjoyed watching, you know, Remington's 200th and Winchester's 150th. So this year is 100 years for Mossberg, you know, and they just announced their pistol, so that's cool.
Interesting looking pistol, by the way.
I'm sorry?
I said it's an interesting looking pistol, by the way.
It is, yeah. You know, so between them introducing that and it's Ruger's 70th anniversary, you know, hopefully we'll see some interesting things out of those two. So
well, that's pretty cool. I never thought about checking anniversaries like that.
Yeah, it's been really good, you know, for what I do for the historic content, being able to reach back, you know, into 100 years or 150 years or 200 years worth of development and kind of track it forward and see where they're at today. It's kind of a different perspective, you know.
Definitely. Was it Winchester, or who did the World War II like I guess they'd be, what do they call when they do them recently? Replicas.
Yeah,
yeah.
The ammo, Winchester did, I think.
That was Winchester with the ammo, and they had a pretty cool display.
Yes.
What was that? That wasn't last year. It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that was 2 years ago. Yeah, because they did a whole huge timeline and everything in their booth. And it was really well done. And Remington in 2016, they did a really good job for their 200th anniversary. So the bar has been set kind of high for Mossberg with their 100th. And Ruger with their 70th. So hopefully they pull it off, because there's really great potential to really highlight their line of products. Look at how far we've come, or going back to roots, or whatever,
For sure. I think it's valid. I think it's neat when companies keep that history alive. Some of them, it's so difficult to even find it. Some companies are proud of it and they keep it on their website and easy to make it accessible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of that, just kind of going off subject, have you noticed the Walther booth? I always thought their booth was pretty cool, how they have got their history right there. You can just kind of stand there for a couple minutes and read through their whole evolution.
I don't know that I've done that. I'll have to do that this year.
It seems like they've had it a couple years in a row. Of course, this year they'll change it up, right? Because I mentioned it, but Leatherman does Walther. It too. Down the side of their booth, a lot of times Leatherman will have their history. It's kind of neat.
Walther actually put out a whole magazine a couple of years ago. I think it was like movie stuff or something, and it was like Sean Connery as James Bond on the cover with the Walther PPK, and it was an entire thing just about Walther in the movies, like from James Bond up until present time. I thought it was pretty cool. Just the James Bond character and the different Walters he had.
If Sean Connery with a PPQ, that's something I want to see.
You can probably still see it. Who knows? He's alive.
Yeah, it's called Photoshop.
Well, Abraham Lincoln says, don't believe everything you see on the internet.
That's true.
Well, we talk in movies, kind of. So, what kind of celebrities have we seen at shows? They're there. They're walking around.
Yeah.
I took a picture with Joe Montana last year at NRA. Trying to think who else we saw. I saw Trump Jr. was at NRA last night, hanging around which is really cool. He was hanging around the dungeon, which I thought was awesome.
I have a your story. I think I was standing on that berm at the media day last year, trying to take I think I was trying to take one of them long pictures, how your phone can do like a panoramic picture of the shoot, right? So I was on that berm right by the entrance, and I was farting around up there and kind of worried that they would kick me out for standing on that berm. And a bunch of dudes were standing at the bottom, and that's where I was getting nervous that they were getting ready to point at me or something. And before I knew it, I wasn't even paying attention. It was like a big SUV, like a limousine. Like all the doors slammed and they sped off really fast. So I think that was because people had said they'd seen him out there. I think that was him getting taken away, and I was like standing there not taking pictures of it the whole time.
It'll be interesting to see if he shows up this year with everything that's gone on in the last 12 months with his dad.
And sits at a bump stock booth. Hey, this is kind of neat. What is this?
Oh, that would be a classic picture, wouldn't it? Oh, that would be great.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Okay, I interrupted you there, though.
Oh, no, I just saying Joe Montana. And then it was cool because I don't know if you guys watch it or not. One of my favorite shows is Forged in Fire. And we were sitting in the media room. I think it was me, you, and Yankee and Clover, and a couple of just sitting there in the media room. And Doug Marcada was having a meeting at one of the tables inside the media room. And I didn't want to go bother him because he was obviously doing business. But, seeing Doug Marcada there was kind of interesting because he's in the industry, but he's more of a blade and martial arts guy. But I love Forged from Fire. So I was thinking, that's Doug Marcada. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Hey, I met Zeke Stout. He's on television now. And
yeah, Zeke is. Yeah.
And Ashley, I met them at NRA a couple of times, hung out at the booth with SDI, ran to Rob Pincus and his family, and he introduced me to everyone there, which is pretty cool. SDI, Sonoran Desert Institute. ends up being a bunch of great people that definitely support the Second Amendment. And we still like talk or say what's up online now. And I look forward to, seeing them at NRA or Great American Outdoor Show. But I guess I'm at that age where I don't know any entertainers. Pretty much. It's like I don't recognize anyone that's famous at this point.
And it's one of those things where I think all of us here, and I can't speak for everybody here, but I mean, I'm not like a fanboy guy. I don't get excited about celebrities. But I think what was weird is that when I saw Joe Montana, I took a picture just because I wasn't expecting to see him there. And I knew he had, his show on the Outdoor Channel, but, I know he's a gun guy, but I just didn't expect to see him at SHOT Show,
I don't, and this gets into another aspect, and I don't know if we want to go down that road necessarily, but, with SHOT Show and a lot of these industry events and meeting up with people and all that, I really enjoy that kind of stuff. And whether it's a celebrity or whether it's a fellow creative, let's say, because I don't like the term YouTuber, it's too narrow, and I don't like the term podcaster, it's too narrow, but creative. It's kind of weird, and I kind of feel fanboyish sometimes if I ask for like a, Instagram selfie real quick or something like that. But there's a few reasons for that. First of all, is that helps with the audience, and when you're putting it out there, that helps to see that, there's all of these people, right? It's that cross exposure, and it kind of helps to see that all of these people are involved in the industry in some way, in the community, in the effort. And I don't know. I think that's important. I mean, it's a key. It's not a linchpin or a cornerstone by any means, but it is part of the puzzle as far as the community dynamic.
Yeah, I would probably much rather I'd much rather go and hang out and get an Instagram picture or something with another creator more than I would a quote unquote movie star or a celebrity. Because, if you see, our friends of ours are in what we do as well, it's always cool because we only get to see each other once or twice a year. And it's cool to kind of hang out, take a picture. But more importantly, we know that they're doing the same thing we are, whether they're bigger or smaller or whatever. But we kind of know the grind and we respect the grind that it takes to do what we do. So I would much rather probably stop and take a selfie with, Johnny or Clover or G or someone. I know G's not going to take a selfie. But I can get like his chest or something,
his hand. He's always up for a hand.
His hand. Yeah. He's always up for a handshake.
Anyhow, so everybody got a chance. Did everybody get a chance to meet Emery? He was definitely very.
I didn't, not at SHOT, and I mean he passed away, but I have in the past.
Go ahead, say that again.
Get to meet who?
Arlie Emery.
Oh yeah. I met the Gunny a number of times. Truly salt of the earth, very nice guy, just down to earth. Him and Montana as well. I filmed a couple seasons of stuff behind the scenes with Montana, and just remember your wife's name, how you doing, how you bang, good to see you again. And Ernie was the same way.
That's the one person I wish I would have gotten to meet. I mean, obviously we can look back and say what ifs and all that, but I guess being a Marine is a little bit different also. I would have loved to have spent 2 seconds with him,
Yeah, I was the same way. A couple of NRA shows, and I looked at the line around Glock, and I was like, I'm not going to take that time to wait for a 30-second Arlie Army. Hey, how you doing? Semper Fi, Devil Dog. And I really wish I would have taken that half hour, 45 minutes now, because I know it's not possible again.
I also got him a couple of times. The line, though, is, I think, testimony to how awesome it was. He would take the time with everybody, and if you see, if you've ever seen somebody who's done it, he'll take the time with the video. That's why the line's so long. But I don't know. He was probably getting paid. Who cares? You could tell he was not doing it for a paycheck or nothing. I mean, just he was there. He was willing to do that and spend his entire time at these shows, days at a time. I can't tell you, 13 years I've been going to SHOT Show. He's been sitting there the whole time. That line.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I tell you who I met in Jersey, which was funny, at Gun for Hire Range in Woodland Park. That's where I host my events. I was there setting up, being on Gun for Hire Radio. And I'm waiting in the hallway, and the male supermodel, Tyson Beckford, walks by with a rifle bag. I'm like, yo, I know that guy. So I stopped him, spoke to him, told him about diversity shoot, and gave him one of my cards. Took a selfie with me, and truthfully, that helped make a lot more people aware when I posted it on Instagram and hashtag the heck out of it about our event. I got some followers out of it, and I thought, okay, that's cool. Well, I told him when the event was. So we got the event started. I'm at the front of the classroom. He walks into the classroom, walks up, says, I think what you're doing is a great thing, shook my hand, said hello to everybody in the room, and said, I got to run, and left. And I just thought that was really cool that someone who makes his living in the media, and truthfully, you get hired sometimes based on favoritism and everything else, and he's willing to openly say he's a firearms owner and enjoys shooting and supports the Second Amendment. And I thought that was pretty cool, that because I don't know what these people risk by actually being openly supporting their Second Amendment rights. You know what I mean? Or being a gun owner.
Right on. And then given that, a bit of a credit to it or whatever, but another presence on the internet, that's what gives them encouragement, and hopefully the other celebrity, quote unquote, whatever, that is thinking about it, Right on.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, it could cost you work. And, costing me work, yeah, it sucks. But this guy has a lot of zeros after his price tag.
Now, what about Lou Ferrigno? He walks around shot almost every year. You guys get a chance to see him?
Dude, that is the shortest man I have ever met.
You have not met me, my friend. I met him. I didn't meet him. I saw him. I was shooting a video at NRA, as a matter of fact, this past summer. And all I saw him do was go booth to booth looking for free stuff. It was hilarious. He literally walked by the booth. Hey man, I'm Lou Ferrigno. What you got that you can give me? And he was literally looking for free stuff. It was hilarious.
Well, I mean, his career has kind of peaked, right?
Well, bad, right?
But he is. He's not as tall as I thought, but it was cool. I mean, it was, you sit there and say, man, that looks familiar. Like, oh my gosh, Lou Ferrigno. Holy cow,
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He's a very little guy. When I first saw him, someone pointed around, I'm like, no way in hell is that the Hulk. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, no way in hell. But sure enough.
They also said Arnold Schwarzenegger is not the tallest guy in the world either.
Yes. I have a friend who has run into him out in California and says that he is average height at best.
Oh, really? Interesting. I don't think I've heard of him before.
Yeah, I heard he was like 6'2".
Maybe. Might not even be that tall.
Yeah, I've heard like around 6 feet.
Yeah.
And he looks like this monster, but they say he's really not that big.
He looks like the monster because everyone else in Hollywood is short.
Well,
so,
true.
the guy that comes in, 6'1", 6'3", I don't know. I read some stuff a long time ago. But no, he's not a giant dude. And when he competed, the biggest he was like 250 at the last Olympia he won, which he was really not in great shape for compared to everybody else. So, yeah, these guys aren't as big as you'd think they are. I mean, I'm much bigger than all of them. But, as the biggest pound-for-pound firearms instructor in America, that's to be expected.
Is that your tagline?
That's one of them.
That's awesome. I love it.
Well, let's talk about...
It's like getting the tagline of being the dumbest guy in the room. Nobody really wants it. So it's mine.
Let's talk about real heroes. Then you guys had a chance to meet any of the military guys that are shot. Sometimes when they've authored a book, they'll be there signing or at a booth that they're affiliated with.
Yeah, I've met all the Benghazi guys.
Yeah, I interviewed Tonto last year, NRA, and I've talked to his Judy, I guess his agent or quote unquote handler, several times in the last couple of weeks. So we're gonna hopefully meet up. He's got a new movie debuting at SHOT Show, which would be kind of cool to go to. I'm going to go to that one as well.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, was if anyone was going to be going to that.
Yeah, I am.
I've got the page up right now, looking at the cost of tickets and stuff.
Yeah, I plan on being there for sure, and it's pretty cool.
I'm going to go ahead. I made Tony and Logan moderators over here, so feel free to drop any links you might want in the YouTube chat, and then that way they'll be associated with the video on playback or whatever, and I'll post them in the description of the video too.
Oh, awesome.
Trying to find your username in here. There it is. So I was typing while you guys were saying, what movie are you talking about?
There's a new movie that's going to be about, I don't know if it's about Boone and all of them, but it's about Chris Tonto Peranto, and it's going to be a movie about him that they're premiering during SHOT Show at one of the nights. And it'll be interesting because, I had gotten to spend some time with Tonto and talk to him less about Benghazi. We talked more about PTSD and stuff. And it's a really interesting thing. And for someone who has been thrust into the spotlight of being a quote unquote celebrity for
All right, looks like people on phones got kicked. That'll happen periodically with the YouTube Hangouts. So,
well, I can fill in there about the Tonto thing. It's called War Heroes with Chris Peranto, and it's a TV series as opposed to being a feature-length film. And from what I can gather, each episode is gonna highlight a specific soldier and their experience with things. So I'm trying to find the blurb here.
Now, is it like in one of the rooms upstairs, or is it off the site?
No, it's going to be at I think it's at the Palms.
Oh, okay. It's at like a casino's movie theater.
Yeah, and it says it's a new pro-military documentary TV series which personalizes American soldiers by telling their real-life stories at home and abroad. So the first episode is about Sergeant Ryan Doles from New Jersey, who was killed in Baghdad on June 5th, 2004. He went through VMI and was with the New Jersey National Guard. So they're gonna tell his story and everything. So I think it's Tonto's way of shining the light on the everyday hero, if you will.
Wait a minute. What was the first guy's name? From
His
Jersey?
name, Sergeant Ryan Doltz from Mine Hill, New Jersey.
All right. No, no, it's not who I thought it was. But yeah, I know someone who's in the Guard that got killed in Baghdad around the same time period and it was rough. Because of the modern era, someone had the picture on the National Guard's website before they even made the family aware.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, they had first out the gate, RPG attack, and someone had taken a picture and posted it up on the National Guard website. And, of course, the wives and the families all go on there every day to talk to their family, and they saw it, and they knew that somebody from their unit had been hit, and it was just bad juju, and it was my best friend's battle buddy.
Oh, damn.
And yeah, it hit him hard, hit him real hard because for some reason, you know how the military is, they split the unit up. One is advanced party and the other one is held back, and it was just really a rough time. But it sounded like his name, but it wasn't. But it's
yeah, I dropped the link here in the chat for the event if anyone's interested. Tickets aren't cheap, but it looks pretty cool.
We were talking about military people we've met. We talked about Arlie Emery, of course, and then has anybody got to meet Richard Marcinko?
No.
He's the guy that started SEAL Team 6 and did some cool stuff in Vietnam. And
yeah, I've watched all of his documentaries and stuff. I'd love to meet him.
He's cool. He's still walking around, and I got stories about Marcinko. I've been a big fan of his.
He just looks like he's been through the hell and back, just by looking at his pictures.
Oh, he's a super cool dude.
Yeah, he's from New Brunswick, actually, which is down the road from here. He went. That's where actually I lived for my first decade in Jersey. He grew up around Rutgers campus. So yeah, I'd love to meet him just for the Jersey connection. And I have all of his books. I've read them all, of course. But it's pretty cool. I'd love to meet him in real life.
Yeah, he's a hell of a cool dude. I won't monopolize the chat with it, but yeah, I got stories about him. I've met him a couple of times, and he's super cool. What about Plasterer? He's there occasionally. Sniper, signing books.
No, I'd tell you the one person, I don't even know if he goes, but if he ever does go, I'd love to meet Marcus Luttrell. I think he'd be a fascinating person to talk to.
Marcus is awesome. He keeps to himself a lot nowadays, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't think he'd go to something like that, but if he does, I would definitely seek him out.
Well, and that's the reason they ask you not to take pictures of just, group shots or just walking down hallways or going live, like the selfie view and people walking behind you, because there are people that show up at an event like this where they're not looking for cameras and stuff. They're hoping.
Yeah, I just like to shake the man's hand more than anything.
Yeah, I'd like to see, meet Carlos Hathcock at one of the. No, I'm just joking. Okay,
I met Carlos. He was kind of a weird dude, but he was old when I met him. Yeah,
he had to be. I mean, he passed away 10 years ago. But if I saw him, I'd be really excited.
Nearly 20 years ago, I think.
20 years ago next month.
Yeah. Holy crap! It's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm getting old.
Yeah, he lived here in Virginia, so.
I had a chance to meet Chuck. I don't know how to say his last name. McKinney, the Marine sniper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Was he at SHOT?
No, not really. He was at this event that got ruined, but it used to be this Marine event that was the reason I went to SHOT for so long.
Yeah, see, you told me about that. I wish they still have that. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, he was there with just kind of auctioning off a thing, and it was awesome. Yeah. It's just neat to be able to be people's hands that are history, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing about an industry event, is it brings the industry. And again, these, there's people walking around. I've been in booths where, you'd say, who's this guy or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's a SEAL team or whatever. Or like, that's buyers for, this battalion or this unit or something. So there's people there that are legit. You're in the industry. It's not just, cowboys and people going hunting. It's the whole industry. It's kind of neat. And anyway, so, any other military people that people have met at shows?
Most of mine were, it wasn't even at shows, but, just have met over the years at wherever for whatever reason. But Chris Kyle's one of them.
Yeah. And I met some people that are in the industry, like Dom Rosso. He's a NRA. What do you call those? Like Coleon Noir contributor, maybe, or whatever they call those guys. Yeah. Nice enough guy, full energy. Like
the video equivalent of a contributing editor or something.
Yeah, pretty much. And Mike Seeklander, he was in the Marine Corps too.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's funny.
For sure.
Mike and I didn't know him. You know what I mean? While I was in the Corps, but we were both at Lejeune at the same time, bouncing in nightclubs at the same time around Camp Lejeune.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he told a story on his podcast one day, and I'm like, wait a minute. I know that place, and I know that place, and I worked at that place. And it was like, oh, my God.
I was in Jacksonville for about 2.5 weeks doing a quick training course back in '94. We'd go to Lejeune every now and then, but there was some there's not a whole lot to do around Cherry Point.
Not a lot to do at Lejeune at all. And there's only X number of clubs, because I came back stateside right after the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, and almost everything was closed. So if you it's like 50,000 Marines in like 3 clubs. It was bad. It was really bad and really boring. We drive all the way to Wilmington, North Carolina, just to go to a club on a Saturday night. It's like
I guess that was the great thing about Pendleton, is you get down to San Diego or up to LA and you can get away from all of that.
Oh, I was at Pendleton, but I was 17 years old, dude.
Then you couldn't do much.
It's like, yeah, congratulations. You're like half an hour away from LA and can't go. So I was at I have great stories about the enlisted men's club at Pendleton that no one cares to hear.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break, because I think we're at the 2-hour mark, and 2 hours for the Second Amendment, right? So just want to host a bit. We've got a two-way workshop. I effort to do these on Tuesdays and Saturdays, thanks to our people on Patreon that make that possible. And we open the room up on the Gun Website's YouTube platform. my biggest soapbox with 160 something thousand subs. It'd be great if they all showed up, but we'll continue to put it out there for them. And then, of course, we put it over to gunstreamer.com, a pro-gun video hosting platform. We'll probably talk about that here in a minute. And then I send an invite out to 42, good number, people I know in the firearms industry that are in the industry and also media. And the idea is that if we get together and utilize each other's resources and knowledge, we can all pull in a similar direction, try to get our messages on point, and effectively utilize all of our audiences and our entire reach and change the way that we go in 2019, and not just report on the way things are, but have some influence as well. And it's always an effort in new media, meaning everyone has a telephone, which is basically the means of creation and production and dissemination of information. We no longer have to worry about a few people who have the ability to disseminate a message, an agenda-based message, through their means of dissemination. And we don't have to suckle at that distribution system anymore. We're part of it. And the people that watch these creations that we put out on all different platforms have more and more power than ever before. We want to make people aware of that. So we do this effort every Tuesday and every Saturday. I want to thank everyone for being a part of it. I always want to give people an out. You don't have to stick around if you don't want to, especially the people on the panel. I know we're taking up a bunch of your Saturday, but if you'd like to stick around, we do have some other things to talk about. We're coming up on SHOT Show 2019. It's a time when the industry gets together for a week. Many of us on this panel will attempt to be there or be there. And as anyone watching, this is your industry. So this is a time when we have a unique opportunity. And I'm hoping that, going forward, we'll continue to make the best of it. So I'm going to go through and introduce everybody again. We got CloverTac from internet fame, does podcasts, YouTube videos, Instagram, and more from Texas. Thanks for jumping in.
He said internet fame. It's funny.
I don't know what to call you anymore. You're not a YouTuber anymore.
No.
We got Ghost, similar pedigree, but rocking all over the platforms and getting out there. You've got lots of projects underway in 2019. Thanks for jumping in from Arkansas.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate you having me, bud.
Logan jumping in from Virginia.
Yep.
And obviously a whole nother set of talents and knowledge base bringing to the board. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. And then Tony jumping in from New Jersey. I like to say that. So again, Brent, thanks for joining into these chats. And again, we're digging in. So I was going to talk about inventors. One of the things I've enjoyed the most about SHOT Show is being able to shake hands with people who invented guns. So let's talk about inventors we've met.
I didn't meet it. Hell, okay. I didn't meet an inventor, but I met, he's one of the guys that started customizing different firearms, and he's pretty well Cylinder and Slide, the owner of Cylinder and Slide. I can't think of his name, but I followed his work since I was like a teen, and I finally got to run into him at NRA, and I straight fanboyed out. I mean, I was straight gushing, and I was like, thank you for everything, thank you for what you did, because his work and the stuff he did, fueled those freaking gun ownership fantasies that you have as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, he did work on high powers 1911s, and that was some of the stuff that just captivated me as a kid. That was on magazine covers and book covers, and got me into reading more about guns and their firearms history, and it just sucked me all in. So it was just an honor to meet him, because it blew me away. And then, of course, Ronnie Barrett, a guy who built a 50 cal in his garage, and some of the parts are still interchangeable with the one that's issued to the Marine Corps today. I was really impressed by meeting someone like that that did stuff like that.
Yeah, Barrett is awesome. Literally changed guns. And you'd think, well, how can you change guns anymore in like the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did it. And also because of his Second Amendment stance, when California made it illegal for civilians to own 50 cals, he was like, okay, I'm not selling to California anymore. We're done. And I'm like, geez, you know how much money that had to have cost him as a company? And he was like, it's just not happening. I'm not selling to you because if civilians can't own it, you can't either.
Logan, I can't even imagine how many inventors you've met over the years.
Well, I tell you, one of my favorites is Reed Knight down in Florida of Knight's Armament. He obviously he's a very forward thinking guy in order to be able to do what he's done with his arms development and all of his military contracts and stuff. But a lesser known thing about Reed is that he is a huge historic firearms enthusiast, and he's got his own private museum down there in Florida. And it is one of the most amazing collections I have ever seen of American stuff and stuff from all over the world, because he recognizes that, the industry doesn't exist in a vacuum. And he couldn't be able to do what he does if it weren't for being able to build on what has come before him. So it's really neat. I really like Reed. He's a good guy.
I don't think I haven't met him, but I know Eric from Volter, who did the music, or what would you call it? He was the caretaker for the museum for a while.
Oh, yeah. It's now it's Corey Wardrop.
But I've heard of it and, of course, read about it. You've been there?
Yeah, I went through there about a year ago, in addition to an amazing firearms collection, including Armalite rifle serial number 1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He also has the only M1 Abrams tank in private hands.
I wonder if there's even, honestly, a price tag that you could put on the original AR, serial number 1.
I mean, he had to put a price tag on it in order to get it.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I mean, it's almost one of those priceless things,
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There's certain stuff that you just, people joke, oh, it's priceless. Well, some things truly are.
Well, you talk about there's probably been a handful of guns over the last 150 years that have truly changed the world, and that's one of them. I mean, truly changed the world.
Absolutely. Another game changer is of course the 1911 in Springfield Armory National Historic Site up in Springfield, Massachusetts. They have 1911 serial number 5, which is the gun that actually went through the military trials in 1911. And then come March 29th of 1911, they were told that they'd won the contract, and it was that gun. So that's a really cool piece of history too.
And that's available for public, like that museum's open?
Yeah, it's run by the National Park Service. So technically, right now in the government shutdown, it's not available to the public. But when they're open, yeah, that gun's on display, and you can check it out. Really, really cool. I definitely recommend taking a trip up to Massachusetts and checking it out there.
I got people there, so it sounds like something I need to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, right. I saw something and it blew my mind, because talking about priceless, about the $1 million Luger, right? The 45 caliber Luger that was used during those same trials in 1910. Yeah, it sold for like $350,000. It's no longer the $1 million Luger. I think that was the price somebody put on at the last auction, which is crazy. It's a heck of a deal.
Yeah, no kidding.
Wow, that really does seem like a crazy low amount of money for that gun.
Yeah, well, there's only, I think there were like 5 made for the trials. And
yeah, I think you're right.
And that's the only one that they know exists. It disappeared for a while and then reappeared in the ownership of a doctor somewhere, and his family sold it. But that was supposedly the $1 million Luger that they talked about in movies and whatnot.
So at SHOT, does Knights go to SHOT?
I believe they do.
So you'd have a chance to meet him or shake his hand? If you were there.
Who are you talking about now?
Mr. Knight, whoever that is.
Oh, Reed Knight?
Yeah.
Yeah, Reed's a great guy. Real nice.
Okay. I know that they've got as far as content creators, and they don't like photos of their stuff in their booth, so they're one of the booths that's kind of a blackout booth as far as photos go. But that's good to know that they're approachable just to meet them, because that is a cool piece of history right there.
Yeah, no, Reed himself is very laid back. You know, he's the kind of guy that if he was sitting at a bar having a drink, you'd never know who he was. I mean, he's very unassuming like that.
I'm afraid that some people might not understand who we're talking about. One of my projects has been to try to map out Second Amendment advocates and inventors with the decks of cards and stuff. And, you know, as I have time, I plan to elaborate on that. One of the things is like a giant family tree of the Second Amendment, and to see and give people some credit, because there's people that aren't necessarily household names. You might know Knights Armament for their products, but the people behind them, the stories are amazing. And not everybody digs into books the way that some do. And oh, they dropped out. But we'll let them get back in here. We were talking about inventors, firearms inventors, people that have created firearms. There's a chunk of them. I was walking around, and I'm a big fan. I don't know if you ever paid attention to my stuff with my little tiny revolvers. I just can't get enough of tiny revolvers and the history of them and the stories and stuff. And I walked around and talked to Jerry Berber from Freedom Arms. Thinking of the right? No, I'm not thinking of the wrong guy. Who's Freedom Arms? Jerry.
Sure.
You mean North American Arms?
Nope, not North American Arms. Freedom Arms is so originally Dick Kasul created the first modern mini revolver in 22 short, and then Jerry from Freedom Arms came along and helped him improve it, and they sold it to North American Arms Inc. And anyway, the story goes on from there. But so I started talking to him, and it turns out I'm speaking to one of the guys who's a piece of this history that I'm interested in, but I didn't know yet. And I just kind of stumbled across this interview, and as we were talking, he had one in his pocket, and he brings it out, and it was just for me, it was one of my inspirations to wake up and not just look at the stuff, the kit that's at SHOT Show, but to realize that we're in the industry there. And that I was talking to a guy who, you know, if I would have not been paying attention, you know, I was super honored to meet. And so, you know, it made it a point to meet George Kellgren. You know, again, people say what they want about the guns. George Kellgren is amazing. He's, you know, made this little submachine gun, brought it over here in the Tech 9. You know, that's amazing influence on our culture. And you can go shake his hand. He's a normal guy. You can just walk up, and he's kind of shy. He doesn't like to talk about stuff, but he's super cool. And that's why I guess I'm talking about, you know, inventors who we go to SHOT Show this year in 2019 and shake the hands of that's invented firearms.
You know, it might be a bit of a stretch talking invent, because technically he kind of picked up a 150-year-old design and ran with it. But Anthony Imperato at Henry Arms, you know, all the new things that they're doing with their guns. It's neat the way that they took Benjamin Tyler's design and have figured out how to ramp it up and do more with it. You know, I think, was it yesterday, I guess, they announced their lever gun in 6.5 Creedmoor, and it's been really interesting watching their evolution of how, you know, they took this design that fired a large rimfire pistol caliber cartridge, you know, and now they've got a design that's sending downrange some serious firepower.
I think it's even more impressive. Met him a couple of times. Awesome dude. But that he opened up a company in Bayonne, New Jersey, and somehow he's still like able to produce in such an anti-gun state. And it really makes no difference that he makes lever actions and bolt actions. They don't care. You know what I mean? So, and he supported us in what we do, which is awesome.
Yeah, he is a great guy. Truly salt of the earth.
Have you ever got to meet Glock Gadsden?
No.
They keep telling me he's not at SHOT, and then I'll see pictures of the Glock party, and there he is. So I know people have met him.
Yeah, I've seen their jet at the airport a few times, but I've never run into him.
He may not go to the SHOT itself, but he probably does the after-hour stuff maybe for a little bit. But that'd be
Could be.
He's amazing to meet. Amazing to meet. A guy who changed the industry, you know?
Yeah. Changed modern handguns. Duty guns. That's insane. To know you had that effect in your lifetime. It's not something you had to wait, you know what I mean, to pass away before your effect was known. It was pretty much within 15 years.
Yeah.
No, not immediate, but within 15 years, it was known.
Well, that's pretty immediate in the gun industry.
Well, yeah, definitely. I guess you're right. But
I mean, you have to look at also how many people do we know that are not gun people that know Glock, you know?
Yeah. The funny thing is, to see your invention just become like aspirin and Band-Aids, just any semi-automatic polymer gun is called the Glock by the public for the most part. It's like Derringer. But
I know that G and Clover have been reading a book about them that I got to get. I don't know why I haven't yet, but they say that some of the stories are just unreal in this book.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he had a hell of a life. Well, has had. He's still alive. They had an assassin try to kill him in a parking garage, and he went all ninja badass. And I'm pretty sure he killed the guy who was sent to kill him, which is pretty cool.
Oh, he beat the crap out of him. That guy's in jail, but yeah, he was like 84, and the guy they sent to kill him was like 60, and he still beat the crap out of him with the own hammer that the guy brought, and then he sued everybody because that was all about money.
Dude, I'm sorry. You hire a 60-year-old assassin to kill an octogenarian with a hammer. What kind of message was that supposed to send? Like, did the AARP get in on it? What was that?
That's what goes on in Austria, right?
Well, maybe they misunderstood exactly who they were going after, and they thought that Gaston Glock was still just manufacturing curtain rods in his garage. They didn't think that he'd evolved.
He still flies his plane too.
Wow,
that's a little scary. I'm not sure I'd get on that plane.
I don't know how recent. Autopilot. At least I don't know how recent that is. Of course, I never met him, but I think that would be cool. I'd consider that a score to be able to just say hey to Gaston Glock. That would be awesome.
Can you imagine the rock star fan? Can you imagine? You said for Arlie Ermy was 30-45 minute wait. Can you imagine the line at the Glock booth if he was there to shake hands? Oh my God.
Yeah, right. Crazy. That's insane.
It would have to be its own show.
I think about his plane flying in with just the left blinker on all the way from Austria to Vegas.
This thing goes Mach 1. You don't have to go 250 knots the whole way.
In the left lane.
All you see is his hat. All you see is his hat and his knuckles on the controls through the front window.
Go back to inventors. Sal, the guy that invented Spyderco, he's still going to shows, right?
I don't know.
He's ever dug into those, and you can get the different knife designers and stuff. They show up. They'll be at booths. Killed it there. Any other inventors, or is that a dead horse at this point?
Yeah, I'm not sure who else is really out there that's still kicking. There's a lot of greats, but
LaRue, they still show up. They're kind of in the back. Get a chance to meet.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if the aim point people, if you're meeting inventors there or not. I'm trying to think outside of the firearms. All right, well, we got dead air and no need to keep it revived. These guys are having trouble connecting. We're here to have a two-way workshop. We've been kind of just shooting the shit. But any other, I don't know, things to wrap up before we go to SHOT Show related stuff? We talked a bit about keeping organized and calendars and stuff. Oh, you know what? I'm talking myself into one of the things I forgot to talk about earlier. The media room, right? It's a resource, and I don't know if we want to talk about that much, but they do put out the thing. I forget what they call it. The Daily, probably something. The SHOT Show Daily, I guess. And it's a big magazine the size of what Shotgun News used to be. They put that out every day, and they definitely, SHOT Show puts a lot of time and effort into that, and I'm sure the sponsors there that are, are part of that thing appreciate it or something. But I found that thing pretty useful. There's so much stuff going on at SHOT, and it can be, overwhelming with all the different stuff going on. And that thing focuses on any daily stuff that might be happening, so you don't miss it. I don't know if you guys have ever thumbed through that thing, but they'll throw it out on the tables in the media room each morning.
Yeah, it's really impressive what they do every single day with that.
I started noticing that years ago, and I'm like, wow, this is like a pretty good resource. Like, they talk about a seminar or something that you're not really paying attention to, or like a new thing that'll only be one day. That's how I found out about that materials thing. I think Joe told me about it because he thumbs through it. Hap is asking how one gets tickets to enter SHOT Show. You don't get them, you buy them, I suppose. And it's an industry show. So it's the Shooting and Hunting Outdoor Trade Show. Started in '76, and for the last 9 years, it's been in Vegas each year. It's the 5th largest trade show in Vegas. And it's the industry. So everything from boots and safes, and I'm trying to go from left to right, flashlights and knives and carry guns and AR-15s and little Derringers and international guns and all your AR-15s.
Body armor, all that stuff, yeah.
Yep, body armor. And then you get into the police rooms, and you've got, training simulators, and you go downstairs, and now you've got, contraptions to make beef jerky and ways to dry your boots, and new accessories for coolers and all kinds of neat stuff. And it's the industry. So it's the manufacturers, the people that create all that neat stuff. And then it's the wholesalers and distributors, the people that buy it in bulk, and they distribute it out to the stores. So a lot of stores are there. Individual stores will show up and decide what products they're going to carry. They'll talk to their manufacturer or their wholesalers and their distributors and figure out, what they're going to buy 12 of, and if they're going to buy 10 of them now and a dozen of them later or something like that. And all kinds of deals get made. 2,500 media are invited, so we're included in the industry, and we're there to cover the products themselves. And I hope, we also reflect on the industry and the progression of it. But to get invited, you just have to be a member of the industry at any of those levels. So you could get involved, like Tony was saying. He had an opportunity to go with a gun shop. That's how I first started going to SHOT, helping out a gun shop. Back in the day, you'd go to SHOT Show and you'd have to bring home brochures. If you wanted to have Ruger brochures for your store and you didn't want to pay an arm and a leg throughout the year, you went to SHOT Show and you grabbed like a whole bunch of them, and then you brought somebody like me along to help carry them around all day. And it's like going to any kind of trade show. It's like going to the NRA show, exactly, really. So you've got gun shops that show up, and all the people that show up at those shops, if you're in the military, if you're in procurement or in development or something like that, you have an opportunity to go. Law enforcement, they procure, so they're going. Then ranges, a lot of shooting ranges will send people. If you're in a gun club, check that out. There's an opportunity to go if you're in a gun club. And of course, the industry. And the industry is developed, the media, and the media is developed over the years to include internet and individuals who are putting out efforts, as well as authors and podcasters and TV shows and everything else. So it's not an us or them. It's just get involved in the industry, and you're more than welcome to attend. I think it's not too expensive. You have to go to Vegas and you have to be there for an amount of time and you have to travel and everything. But, a lot of people travel to go to sports or to, other things that are of their interest. So not necessarily simple, but it's not real easy. Or, it's not necessarily difficult either.
And I think one of the big things to reiterate, and you touched on it, is that it's a wholesaler's show. I think people think that SHOT is kind of like a Skull and Bones secret society for guns, but it's not like NRA show or Great American. You can go and check out all the new stuff that Magpul has brought out or that Galco Gun Leather has brought out, but you're not going there and buying a PMAG or a Miami Classic shoulder holster and walking out of there with it. That's not how it works. This is not a show that's designed for John Smith to go in and stock up on this year's gear. That's what the NRA show is for. This is for, I'm going to go in and I'm going to buy 500 Galco shoulder holsters at a wholesaler's discount and put them in my shop. And I think that distinction is lost on people sometimes. They don't totally understand what SHOT is. And I think some people get a little butthurt, like, oh, how come I can't get in? Like, if you've been to SHOT long enough, you don't put it on such a high pedestal.
Well, and I hope that's one of the reasons that, or one of the ways that we can make that exact statement out there, and put that out there with our reach, right? So if people have a misunderstanding or something, misconception of what SHOT is, our coverage should help enlighten them, right? Show them what it's
Absolutely.
Like. I've talked to a bunch of company guys, and they all say that SHOT Show from the manufacturer side is more of the hassle. They enjoy NRA more. I don't know if it's because it's more laid back or not quite as hectic, but most of them I've talked to, so they enjoy NRA a lot more than they do SHOT.
That's what I hear too.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. And I think the show that they enjoy the least is Great American Outdoor Show, because it is such a long show, and especially for some of the smaller companies where, you may only have 2 or 3 guys in the business. You can't rotate out a bunch of employees like they do for Glock or for Smith & Wesson. There's stuff like that. You're there for 9 days at Great American, and you're there including, industry day at the range. You're in Vegas for 6-7 days and stuff. Whereas NRA show is a weekend, it's a lot easier to do.
Yeah. At the end of the Great American Outdoor Show, when the show says it closes, you just hear this roar come from all the vendors and clapping, and they're just so glad to get out of there at the end of that event. It pretty much turns into Stockholm Syndrome at the start of the second week.
Yep, pretty much.
Have they thought about making it a less of a time, or take the same 9 days, but like, hey, the first 3 days are going to be this, next 3 days are going to be this, and all that? Or is it just they've never even just thought about changing it?
That show has been what it is for, I think, like almost 80 years. And when NRA took it over 5 years ago now, maybe 6 years ago now, people talked about, well, hey, this is your opportunity to switch it up. You can do it at a different time of year, or you can do it at a slightly different time frame. But that is such a huge juggernaut moneymaker for the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area. And it's such an institution there at the Farm Show Complex that you can't change it. It's like when was it Coke or Pepsi or whatever back in the 80s tried to change New Coke tried to change the recipe and everyone mutinied. It's kind of like that with Great American. It's got to be that 14-day Baton Death March in February in Pennsylvania, because we've always done it that way.
That's cool, though. I like tradition. That's why people travel there, though. That's why it makes it a cool show, and and if you know it's going to be there, it lets you put it in your plan.
Well, like you said, also, it's been doing for so long, and people continuously show up. So obviously, they're doing something right. It may be a hassle for the vendors, but I guess it's like you said, it's been working this long.
Well, hopefully,
and it's right on the butt end of SHOT. Like, SHOT show ends, and then the next thing, within a week or two?
Within 2 weeks.
Yeah, 9 days of Great American Outdoor Show. So if you're a smaller company and you just spend a week in Vegas, then you come home and try to handle the business, whatever you had going on while you were in Vegas, and then you go 9 days to Harrisburg. I mean,
and then take it one step further, and you've got the companies that a month later are going over to Nuremberg, Germany for the IWA show.
Yeah, I don't even think of international shows. But I was gonna say, I posted a thing on Instagram of my calendar for January, right? It's got the SHOT Show, and then it's got that. I don't even have the Pennsylvania thing in there, but the hunting shows, the big hunting shows, the Ferry Club International, then Dallas, and then Houston are all in January. anyway, I posted that on Instagram, and Wild West Guns, people that make that breakdown lever action, what they call it, the guide gun. They set up at every single one of those shows, so they've got a booth at every one of those shows. They're probably going to be at way more than at home.
They've probably got like a couple guys. That's their job, though, isn't it? I mean, you have to assume at that point.
You'd have to, yeah.
Well, and for smaller companies, you guys are probably familiar with Navy Arms that does all the replica guns.
Oh yeah.
Well, Val Forget, the president of that company, he's a good friend of mine. He lives not too far from here in West Virginia, and it's him and like 4 guys in that entire company. And I can tell you that Val will be at SHOT, and then he'll be at Great American for the entire duration. He will be going to SCI next weekend, so he'll do SCI, he'll do SHOT, he'll do Great American, and then he'll go over to IWA. And all of that craziness, and it's
so what you're saying is once NRA is over with, and actually this year in April, he's looking forward to some time off.
Yeah, until October hits, and then it's time for the wholesalers show again, and then it just kind of starts all over. It's it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, because with my job, I build up days off. I have to, and like everybody else, you have to figure out how you're gonna use your time wisely. And that whole going to SHOT Show, especially when I was told it wasn't something that would really be fruitful for me, I was like, yeah, there was no reason. I mean, it sucks because of the networking aspect of the industry compared to going to Great American Outdoor Show or going to NRA. It's like everyone in the industry is a SHOT, but it's just rough, man. It's a rough, 9-day show here, 4-day show there, and then NRA right afterwards. It's a lot of days off.
I would imagine for those that would try to go to the outdoor show, it would be tough to justify going to both. It's almost like you almost have to pick one, don't you?
You'd either have to pick it or break it down. And again, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. I've been going for years, and it's no guarantee that if you hit in the middle of the week, it'll be dead. It could be the busiest day ever, and you still don't get a chance to meet the people you want to meet. So, I mean, last year, I think I took 7 out of the 9 days, and I just broke it down and stayed there as long as possible, but I had to get back to work and do some stuff and then go back out.
Yeah, and you're right. And there was, I guess it was 3 years ago at the Great American Show, they had a snowstorm on the first Tuesday of the event. And so, all the schools were closed down, all the public services and everything. And we were all expecting the show to be dead that day. It was the most busy day of the show because no one had anywhere else to go. It was the only thing open.
I was like, what happened? It was packed. It was like Disney. Like people were all over the place. And it's huge. It is so big. That you have everything. I mean, they have a rodeo arena that's packed with stuff. They have the NRA. I had a friend that volunteers at the NRA air gun range, and they have RVs. I mean, it is huge. I have no idea compared to SHOT how big it is. I just know it's huge.
Oh, well, and we've got a bad perspective because one of the people that went to both told me that it was only the size of the big law enforcement room at SHOT Show. Logan, how big is it compared to SHOT?
Well, it's different. I think it is technically square footage wise bigger than SHOT, but it's laid out completely different because it's in this complex of buildings that are connected by these smaller walkways, and it was set up to be a farm show complex. It's not set up to host a giant gun show with RVs and campers and boats and log cabins. No joke, actual honest to God log cabins that they bring in and build in this damn thing for a week and a half. So it square footage wise, yeah, it probably is a little bit bigger than SHOT, but the space is not utilized nearly as well. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
again, not having been the shot, yeah, there's some dead space, but I mean, you have boats parked in there for us, and like a whole section with huge boats that are there. So again, it's not just guns, it's everything, and that's one of the reasons I want to try to spread out a little more, meet the industry people in the firearms industry, but also talk to others, because again, we need to spread our message to other people.
Always. And it's more of a NRA atmosphere, of course, as opposed to a shot wholesaler type of atmosphere industry.
Oh, definitely. I mean, thank goodness the NRA bought it, because it was they pulled a bonehead move a few years ago and decided that if you produce black rifles, they didn't want you there. And the pushback they got there was epic, to the point they lost control of the show and NRA had to buy it.
That's probably a good move for NRA, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Smart move for NRA. They get tons and tons and tons and tons of members and new members signing up. Friend of mine works, Charles works the front door there, and they pretty much bring in more members than anything, just working the door at the Great American Outdoor Show for NRA recruitment.
Well, speaking of NRA, that made me start thinking about NRA's presence at these shows, and that made me think about the Wanamaker. So we're all planning on being at Wanamaker in April, or a bunch of us are planning on being at Wanamaker in April. Logan, do you have any insight? Are they going to have a museum thing there this year, or is it somewhere else?
The museum always has a booth space at Wanamaker's. It's at the it's at the end of the upper level, right there next to the staircase. It's been there for years, and that's where they'll have it again.
Oh, I guess I know that the booth you're talking about, like where that transition between upper and lower level, you guys are always right there. But I mean the like traveling show that the NRA does.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, the National Gun Collectors Show. That was one of my responsibilities, and that travels the country. This year, 2019, it's going to be in Sioux Falls, South Dakota next month. February in South Dakota. That'll be fun. Thankfully, I left just in time that I won't have to go to that. But it depends, because they have to get an invite from a host club to bring it in and be able to foot the cost for some of that. So after 19, I have no idea where it's going to be. I know that it's getting hard to find clubs that have the space and the financial ability to host an event like that. So the future of that aspect of the show, the National Gun Collector Show, is up in the air right now, as far as I know. But again, I'm no longer an NRA representative, so I don't take it as gospel.
Right on. Oh, but we'll see like what the future holds with that. But that was neat. They did like a traveling museum, I guess you'd call it, but that's what I could have been described as. But it's collectors would do sort of a competition.
Yeah, exactly. There was $12,000 in cash prizes that they would compete for. Grand prize was $4,000, and then it was $2,500 and $1,000, and a bunch of little $500 ones here and there. And it's amazing. Guys bring out some of the most amazing privately held pieces I've ever seen. And so it's very neat to be able to check that out.
I've seen it from the viewer, and it's just at Wanamaker's where I've seen it, and it's just part of the show. You just walk around, and there's just a big booth with display or a diorama or however they want to set up their collection, and you just get to experience it and ask them questions and learn a bunch of stuff. I know some people that set up displays for it, and I know they put a lot of time and effort into it, so it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, it's truly a labor of love, and you never know what you're gonna see. I mean, one year they had the first Ruger pistol ever made, serial number 3, because the first 2 didn't make it out of the factory. And then I walked down a little bit further, and there was a booth. The guy had, no joke, 10 original Colt Walkers in his display case.
That's crazy. How many Walkers were there?
There were 1,000 made for the military and 100 made for the civilian market. Less than 10% survive. So there's about 100 of them floating around out there, and this guy had 10 of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff you see at Wanamaker that's just neat. So let's talk about gun shows. You're going to SHOT. Are you staying for the antique show after?
No, unfortunately, I'm not. I'm going to have to plan my days and my trips a little bit better. Hopefully, I'll be in a better situation next year to stay for the antique show, because it really is a great show, but I can't swing it this year.
All right. If something changes and you need a room, we've got you covered. So
I appreciate that.
Fly or whatever. Yeah. And sometimes planes will let you change a flight, no cost, or sometimes you even save $1 doing it, especially when everybody's trying to leave on a Friday.
That's very true. Well, I'll look into it. We'll be in touch. We'll chat about that if you don't mind.
Sure. So I don't know. Like I say, we don't need to keep this going artificially. We're losing viewers out there, so that must be some indication of maybe it's getting long-winded. But I appreciate everybody's sticking around and being part of this. Like I say, I tried to have these shows available, or this workshop available, on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Don't know if those are the perfect time, but I don't know if there is a perfect time. So I appreciate the people that join us in the room, and the people that show up and watch it live. Anybody that watches it in the future, we've left the links to people that are participating here. And of course, this is all about just being part of all this stuff and not just watching it all. So before we head out, if anybody wants to plug anything or mention anything. Clover, anything coming up? You might be with some of the power supply there. Ghost, anything coming up?
No, just preparing for SHOT and kind of getting everything done with that. I would probably be releasing some videos in the next week. And I got the show Tuesday night, and the Armed Citizen podcast, so go check that out as well. And if you guys are interested and you guys haven't checked it out, I was very fortunate and honored to be a guest on the Black Man with a Gun podcast. So that came out, I think, yesterday with Kim Blanchard and Mike Woodland. So I don't know how many white guys have had on there before, but it was kind of an awesome thing to be on that podcast before. So I was really honored to be on that.
Oh, plenty, dude, but that's OG. That's awesome. Ken's been doing stuff since long time.
90s.
Oh man, he's a pillar. I mean, he's a pillar. Really is.
That's
How
cool.
crazy was it to hear his voice and he sounds just like he does on the show?
I'd sit there and I talked to him on the phone, and I was just like, okay, like he is this real soft-spoken, slow-talking guy. It's just the way he is,
Yep. Yeah, great dude. Been on the show before. Mike is also good people. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Hello?
I didn't hear anybody. Go ahead. I didn't say anything.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Yeah. Check me out. Simon Says Train on Instagram. Simon Says Train on Facebook. The second is for everyone on Facebook. The second is for everyone podcast. It's on your most podcast apps. And we got a new show coming out. We're actually going to record tonight, and it will be available Sunday for download. So really appreciate you having me on, man. It's cool to get out there. And if you want to listen to our Gun and Gear Review podcast on Firearms Radio Network, I'm on that every week also.
Cool. Clover, you back?
I am back.
Got anything coming up?
Got the Monday podcast on Instagram on Monday. What else? The poll for the Patreon lawn chair pop will should drop tomorrow for that. And the Fire Friday podcast dropped yesterday. Axion Optics. Next week is Swagger Bipods, I believe, coming up next Friday. So several things on the plate. Yeah, and working on trying to get ready for SHOT, obviously.
Yeah, I listened to your Riding Shotgun with Charlie that you posted on your Patreons to this morning, I think. That was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a good
I actually
conversation.
recorded that. I recorded last week with him.
Yeah, it's crazy because he was like, hey, and then Tony, and then Clover's like, yeah, I was just in a podcast with Tony. So there's like crazy, like, being neat just to be around when all this is like not quite live yet. Yeah, it's neat. So, Logan, what do you got coming up?
Well, obviously, like you guys, we're gearing up for SHOT. And then after that, I've got a bunch of different historic content pieces that I'm working on for a couple different media outlets. And so you can watch for those stories to be hitting live, within the next few weeks and months. To recap, because this is my first time floating in here, I'm a historian by trade, firearms historian. And so if that aspect of things interests you, highcaliberhistory.com is my website. You'll find links there to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I've got a blog on there, links to other content that I've done and all sorts of neat history stuff. And if there's a certain aspect of things that you'd like to learn more about or have me cover, I'd be more than happy to hear about it and take suggestions. Just appreciate being able to be a part of this in a slightly different avenue.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate you jumping in. And you can also experience Logan. He was gracious enough to give us a tour of the NRA's museum when we were there on the tour with Marco. That was in 17, I think. So,
yeah, I think so.
That was during the Daily Gun Show, so that's out there somewhere, and it'll be under the Daily Gun Show's live on location type of playlists. And that's over on Gunstreamer. So one thing I did want to mention before we head out is Gunstreamer, but I'm just going to take a second and thank Clover for having such an interactive conversation over on the YouTube side. Again, this is interactive. We're trying to effort towards new media, and as viewers, you can definitely have the best seats in the house to watch the same thing happen over and over again. But with the little likes and the little shares, and the ability to click on the URL and copy that and paste it into other platforms and to help people reach, you can participate in this whole thing. So I really appreciate that Clover's been having this conversation over there, and I want to invite you, because I haven't seen you live in a while. I understand there's handcuffs, but you got my platform anytime you need it, and in other words, my channels anytime you want them, but you've got your other channel. But to elaborate on some of the stuff you guys have been going back and forth, it hasn't been specifically on the topics we're talking about here, but obviously it's been 2A. So I just want to encourage you to, if you're interested, to take that conversation out, because I think it's just being lost in the text over there, perhaps, unless somebody happens to listen to this and then go back and read all that.
Yeah, it's been going on, right?
Yeah, and that's, what are you going to do? That's what it's all about. We're having conversation here, and we have to learn how to work these platforms. And it's valid to have a text conversation with somebody, but it's not as as useful as a real conversation can be. Just to elaborate on stuff. Anyway, so I just wanted to put that invitation out there, and also to any of you guys, Tony, Logan, Ghost, of course. If you guys ever need this platform, you got the Gun Website's YouTube channel. If you want to have something post up here, feel free. If you want to go live at any time and talk about a project, you're always welcome.
Appreciate it very much.
Thanks a lot.
Let's talk about Gunstreamer. They were out in the chat. I don't know if they're still out there, but Gunstreamers is a new platform for video hosting. They've been around for most of 2018. Now they're going into their second year, and we're waiting for them to go live. But I don't know, you guys, I don't have to talk everything here. I know Clover and Ghost can petition Gunstreamer as good as I can.
Yeah, hopefully they'll get live pretty soon. They've got to, at this point, know how adamant we are, and I don't know, I want to say desperate necessarily that we are, that they get it up, but I think excited. Yeah, I think a more important aspect for me with it, and even though I'm banned from the YouTube live here for the next couple of weeks or so still, but it would have been nice to have that to fall back on, sure. And looking forward, when they do get it implemented, it's going to be nice to take some shows, over there and get them completely away from YouTube altogether, at least the live aspect. But I think that as far as the bigger picture for them going to live over there, I think it's going to be a game changer. And I think they need to get it on the table as quickly as they can get it on the table. I think we're dealing with a clock issue here. There's a lot of people vying for their jockeying for position with a lot of different platforms and other things out there. And I like the Gunstreamer team. I know that they're willing to work with the creators. I know that they're pro Second Amendment, pro firearm lifestyle people. I know that they work hard. I know that they want it to be a success, and I want to see that happen. And if they drag too long, I don't want to see them. I don't want to see them get beat to the punch.
Well, I guess maybe I worded that wrong. I just wanted to mention that Gunstreamer's out there, and they're a viable alternative, or what's a better word? Archive for your.
Oh, absolutely.
They're out there. You can sign up for an account for free, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but you can sign up for an account for free. There's not a lot of ads over there. There's an active community already. And once you've created an account, they have a way to have it pull your entire YouTube library over there. And after it's pulled, any subsequent video you post will automatically get put over to the Gunstreamer. So we've seen people that have issues with terms of service violation or something with the community guidelines on YouTube, and they'll sometimes pull a video or a channel even. And just as a safeguard to that and to participate in a pro-gun platform, right? Gunstreamer is a great option.
Well, I think the most important thing that we've all really enjoyed, I think I speak for you and Clover, is they've been on all of our shows throughout the last 9 months, and they're extremely open to ideas. They'll discuss plans with us in private, and they'll talk about stuff in public on our shows. But more importantly, they're there to promote us as well. They understand the relationships between a platform and the creators, and that is one of the most genuine thing that I love about them, is they truly seem to care about us and our well-being, because they know without us their platform dies. And so far, knock on wood, they've been extremely open and willing to have conversations with us. And I'm looking forward to having dinner with them in Vegas and just kind of meet them in person. I've talked to all of them on the phone and all that, but just meet them in person and just to shake hands and all of that. I'm looking forward to that as well.
And I guess with that, we can wrap it up. Thanks again, everybody, for jumping in and being part of another conversation about guns.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.